Hi, Trevor here, reflecting on life through music. Thank you for stopping by. Well, I trust you enjoyed my last video from Swedish rockers Europe, and through their iconic song, The Final Countdown, we looked at the new mindsets we need when we get onto a new adventure. So I trust you found that one an encouragement. Well, going from there to a couple that was romantically involved in 1975 when they met, and they started their career with a band called the Tourists, but they found themselves in Australia in Wagga Wagga, which is actually New South Wales. And it was in a hotel room one night when they were playing around with a mini synthesizer that Dave Stewart and Annie Lennox decided to become a duo. And from that point on, the Eurythmics were born. Of course, Dave Stewart, very much the production and the music sort of guy. Annie Lennox, well, what can we see how good her voice is? Her voice is absolutely amazing. In fact, in the Farewell to Freddie Mercury concert a few years ago now, they got her to sing with David Bowie Under Pressure. So that's how well she is regarded by the music industry in general. So the Eurythmics, between 1981 and 1989, 8 studio albums, 1 live album, 2 compilation albums, 37 music videos, 1 EP, 33 singles and 1 soundtrack album. They had a bit of a break there for a while, and then it was in 1999 that they came back for a bit of a reunion, and since then they've done 1 album. Another performance that they had, they came back in 2014 and they were involved in the tribute Grammys for the Beatles, and they sang Fall on the Hill that night together. A bit of a treat for everyone to see these two back, because they did kind of have a bit of a falling out. I think that's what's happened, because 8 albums and 8 years, plus all the touring, the promotion, everything else, that is a lot of stuff going on there, plus the songwriting, everything else. You just got to that point. Now, the Eurythmics have been nominated twice for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2017 and 18, but yet to be inducted. It's one of those things. You do wonder about these things from time to time. They have received some awards though: MTV Music Award, Grammy Outstanding Achievement Award, Brit Award, Outstanding Contributions Award. They've been inducted in the UK Music Hall of Fame, which is pretty cool. And according to my sources, they're the most successful male-female duo of all time. Now, we think about Eurythmics, there's all sorts of genres going on here. We've got the synth pop thing, songs like Sweet Dreams. Then we really rock it up with songs like Where I Lie to You, Thorn in My Side, When Tomorrow Comes. And then we've also got a bit of reggae, a bit of soul, a bit of everything. Annie Lennox has just got one of these voices that can do pretty well anything. Her voice is really, really powerful, but really, really passionate. And she's such a passionate performer on stage. So when I looked at the songs for the Eurythmics, and I've actually got 4 today, I thought, well, actually, if you put these songs in a bit of a story, you actually get, in a bit of an order, I should say, you get a story. So I thought, well, let's actually do that. Now, this is a continuing story from a couple from a little while ago. Now, if you want to look at the story before we get on to this one, it was the story of Jessie and Chris. And if you go to my playlist A and go to Alex Lloyd, amazing, that's where you'll find the first part of this story. It was a bit of a story of mistakes, but an eventual reconciliation and all the rest of it. So, if you want to recap before this one, just go to A and you'll find it there. So, Jessie and Chris. So, years had gone on since that time, that bit of a culminating moment for both of their lives. They did actually get back together, which is pretty exciting, and they end up getting married, and they had kids and all the rest of it. And some 30, 40 years down the track, here they are in their house. And they're looking at each other. Now, much water had gone under the bridge since that moment. There had been some really, really good times, and there had been really, really bad times. And quite often what happens in relationships was the bad was starting to overtake the good. Both of them were feeling trapped. both of them were feeling like they weren't living. Both of them felt like they couldn't really breathe or suggest or think anything, because it's just the way things had got. The magic had gone, and fear and frustration and disappointment had taken over. Bit like they're both thinking, thorn in my side, what on earth am I doing with you? I just can't stand you anymore. I've had enough of you. I want to move on to live my life. And so that's what they were starting to think. Thorn in my side. You're the last person I want to be with. I've just had enough of you. And I want to move on to something else. In fact, for Jessie, who had made mistakes in the past, it was him who thought to himself that feeling got a bit overwhelming. He thought, right, what the heck? I've had enough of this. He packed his suitcases and he planted them by the door and just waited for Chris to come home and to confront him with the news that he'd had enough. You know, the last thing I want to do is actually hang around you anymore. I've had enough of you. I want to actually see what else is out there. Now, Chris had been thinking similar to herself. She'd been wondering about whether she should pack her suitcases. And so whenever she came home, she was a little bit reluctant and a bit whatever with Jessie. But anyway, she walked in the door that day and she saw the suitcases and she just sort of thought, oh yeah, here we go. It's finally happening. And, you know, it was Jessie that said, you know, I've had enough, babe. Would I lie to you? I'm actually walking out the door because I want to get on to other things. I'm a bit bitter and a bit resentful and, you know, a bit of whatever, and I've kind of had enough. So I'm leaving you and I'm going. Now, Chris was in a lot of ways a little bit relieved because she was thinking the same things, but she was also something in her because she remembered someone saying to her once, you need to keep things ajar. Now, she cast her mind back to that conversation all those years earlier when Jessie had strayed. And she cast her mind back to the moment, and she thought how she was able to overcome that moment, that betrayal, that bitterness that she felt. And she thought to herself, hang on a minute, there's too much history. I've got too much emotional investment in this relationship to let it finish like this. So instead of being caught up with the emotion of the time, and as she looked at Jessie's sort of piercing eyes, almost his eyes was giving him a reason to stay, she just went to the kitchen while he stood there. She actually called out, look, I'll be back. Went in and made them a cup of coffee, and she took it into him and said, hey, let's sit down and talk about what's going on here. Now, Jessie was all ready to walk out the door at this point. In fact, he had the suitcases in his hands, but just something with the look of Chris got him to think and to stop. He too remembered that conversation all those years ago where he had been forgiven. And so, yes, he grabbed the coffee and they sat down together. Now, for many couples, this may have been the end, but there was just something that rose up in the both of these people as they looked at each other, looked into each other's eyes and realised that there was still something there, that despite the bitterness and the resentment and everything else that had been built up over years, love was still there. And over the course of the next hour, they just sat and talked and dreamt and planned about how their future could be. Jessie looked over at his suitcases that were sitting by the door, and he realised that they could be unpacked. Something had saved him, something had saved Chris, something had saved both of them. That when most couples would give up at this point, something convinced them, compelled them to stay together. And so they planned and they dreamed. They thought about what could be as opposed to what can't. They thought about, why do we have to keep doing what we're doing? Why do we have to keep doing the same thing day in, day out? We are us. We can do what we want to do because no one knows us like us. In fact, the friends that Jessie and Chris used to have weren't as much in their lives as they used to be, and these two were feeling quite alone in the whole scheme of life. But Jessie then turned to Chris and said, "Hey, look, we can do what we want to do. Can we please have an adventure? Can we please have an adventure of being together?" And it was Chris who responded, "Hey, when tomorrow comes, we'll be together. Maybe this is the start of tomorrow." And so that from that moment on, they started to see each other differently. They started to see them with the eyes that they first met with each other with. They started to see that there was still love there, and there was beautiful beauty there, and there was all sorts of things. And they started just to do little things to show each other what they meant to each other. And the thorn gradually disappeared. And as they sailed into their twilight years, they certainly did discover that sweet dreams are made of this. Who were they to disagree? It's amazing where these stories go sometimes. As I considered these songs today, and I'll get onto them again in a minute, and Jessie and Chris's story, how often do couples get to this point? They don't actually know what happened almost. There's resentment and disappointment and frustration, lack of passion and all the rest of it. I don't even know how they got there. They don't know how they're going to actually fix it either. It's just too ingrained and too typical. But I think if conversation can be real and honest and truly listening with each other, sweet dreams can be the reality. Because you know the thing about love, you can't turn it off. Particularly in Jessie and Chris's situation, where there wasn't even really anything, it was just resentment and bitterness that was there. There was still love there. And they remembered the love, they remembered their story, and they remembered that there was still something there. And to be able to stop the feelings and the thoughts and everything else, and to be able to turn the corner together, it's a beautiful thing. So if you're a couple right now and you're facing this sort of similar situation, I think we all get there at some point. What is it going to take to keep your love alive? Because you know what, there's been so much emotional baggage so much emotional investment, I should say, that you owe it to yourselves to see it through. So don't be another divorce statistic. Keep that door ajar, and you never know what might happen if there's true honesty with each other. I think some relationships never get to this point. Other relationships do get to this point of it's now or never really, and some don't survive it, whether others are thankful they went through it, because there's a new understanding and a deepening of love. So I trust if this video has been talking to you today that you will find it an encouragement. Well, as I talked about these songs today, let's actually talk about the songs a little bit more. So I hope you caught the 4 songs. We had Thorn in My Side. This came off the Revenge album of 1986. This is the official clip, and this is the iconic Annie Lennox image right here. Her power, her grunt, her passion, her attractiveness in the Annie Lennox sort of way, just made her the perfect front girl for what is the complexity and diversity of the Eurythmics songs. So we've got Thorn in My Side off Revenge 1986. Now, when I think of the Eurythmics, I think Would I Lie to You? This came off the album 1985, Be Yourself Tonight. We then got Would I Lie to You. This is a massive song for the Eurythmics and pretty much catapulted them into superstardom. Such anger, passion, disappointment, everything in this song. This is a song where the lead singer just wants to leave and get out. And when you look at the start of the clip, you can well and truly understand why. And so we got Would I Lie for You. That's also the official clip on that one. And also from the Revenge album 1986, we got When Tomorrow Comes. This is a little bit more, there's just something really great about this song. I love the feel of this one. This is a live version from the 1999 tour. I think it was called the Peace Tour. They came back and did a bit of a reunion. And this is a fantastic song. Annie Lennox starts off quite sensitive and poignant with this song, and gradually it beefs up as we go. And so When Tomorrow Comes is there. And then we got Sweet Dreams. Now this is an iconic song for the Eurythmics. This very much catapulted them, gave them their start. This came from their album 1983, Sweet Dreams Are Made of This. This is a live version, which is pretty cool. And here you see the Eurythmics in a bit of a younger form. So the links to those 4 songs are in the description below. And if you want to recap on my last video from Europe, feel free. And just a reminder, if you also want to recap on Jessie and Chris's first part of their story, feel free to go to a playlist, Alex Lloyd, and you'll see it there. So if you've come back for another video, if this is your first time to Life Reflections Through Music, welcome to everybody, and thank you for everybody for being here. That's it for today. Next time we're going to go on to the brothers, the Thorn, the band, Ever Found. So until then, I'll catch you around. Bye for now.